Well, here we are at Bronkington Hall, and I have with me Felicity Norman.
Green Party, but working with our
IOC,
county.
yeah. So, your first reactions?
Well, as you'd expect, I'm very angry indeed. First of all, because a number of people who should have had an opportunity to speak, whether they were in favour or not, did not have that opportunity. And I think in a democratic system, everybody should have a chance to comment on our budget, which is absolutely vital to how we're going forward in Herefordshire. Secondly, I feel there's been far, far too much emphasis on capital programmes, massive roads programmes, the waste contract to build a huge incinerator. These are things which are going to take an enormous amount of money, capital and of course revenue, and I'm deeply, deeply unhappy that we are going forward with these when there are far, far more important things we should be spending our money on. We want to ensure, of course, that there are proper services, essential services. That's a priority. There are other things like a properly integrated bus system and other ways of meeting the real demands on the city and on other parts of the county in terms of traffic management. Instead of massive road schemes, for goodness sake, let's look at other ways of reducing traffic and providing sensibly for alternative ways of getting around. So that is a start. That is where I feel very frustrated indeed.
Now, you're closely associated with trees, and I hardly like to bring up the matter of trees because they've been a sore point in Edgar Street, but
Indeed.
We've moved on from there because they've gone.
They've gone.
So we just have to accept that.
We do, very, very regretfully, we do indeed, and there are replacements, fairly pale imitations, and I'm sure many of your colleagues would agree that they are there, and that's to the good. But we need an awful lot more in the way of tree planting in all our cities. Trees in urban areas, as everywhere else, are absolutely essential. They play a key role, not just in enhancing our lives and making us feel better, but in very positive, practical ways. They help to reduce flooding in a very seriously efficient and useful way. They are tremendously important in improving the air quality, and let's face it, with traffic at a standstill all too often, the air quality in Hereford is not good, and I can speak for Leominster, where I live, and the same applies there. And huge tree planting schemes could help to ameliorate that. And then of course there are very, very well documented benefits in terms of our health and well-being. And all of these things could be saving money, not just enhancing our lives, but saving us money in real and practical ways. So I'm very much in favour, and as you probably know, I chair the Herefordshire Tree Forum currently, very, very much in favour of major schemes to enhance our cities and towns and really improve on green infrastructure generally, and suitable trees planted in suitable places.
My name's Andy Atkinson. I'm one of the Conservative councillors. My ward is Ross on White East Ward. I've been asked to give my reaction to the meeting today and the outcome of the meeting. I think we've got a great budget to go forward with. I think it's a lot of hard work has gone into it, and there's going to be some challenges, but we're working through those challenges. It has left me extremely confused. The fact that we've seen amendments this morning that have come forward to say, why don't we do this for school transport, or why don't we do this for funding for the arts? And we've said, actually, yeah, we'd like to do that too, and we, by a bit of prudent housekeeping, we can make some money available to do that. So we agree to the amendments, and then after agreeing to the amendments that the other people wanted, it's our county and the independents and the like, we've agreed to that, and then they still vote down the motion, which is, to me, is absolutely crazy, because an amendment is saying, yeah, sure, I can vote for it as long as you include this. And we say, yeah, sure, let's include that, great idea. And then it gets voted down by them or voted against by them. And I just think it's just unbelievable. But the budget has gone through and we've got a strong budget to go forward with. So have a good weekend.
Well, the budget debate was choked off procedurally. And if the chairman had stuck to her own rules about the amendment debates being kept to time, then there would have been time for the proper budget debate. We had no closing remarks from the leader, no opportunities for other group leaders like me to make closing remarks. It was rushed to a vote, and it was clear that most Tories wanted their lunch rather than a debate on these vital matters.
Yeah, I mean, the two crumbs of comfort that we can take from this is that we got 2 out of the 3 budget amendments through, which have a huge impact on families with school-aged children needing transport. So all of the high schools and the families in catchment areas at the edge of our county, and also all of the arts groups who get a 10-to-1 gearing on the funding that the council provides. So in those instances, in terms of family upheaval and the kind of money that pours into the county for arts activity as a result of the small amount of money that's budgeted for arts commissioning grants, that's created a real policy bridge for us to 2015, really because the budget for us was a bit, if I were you, I wouldn't start from here. Philosophically, we struggle to find how we actually put forward amendments that are going to make sense, because so much of what's being proposed is in a policy framework that we, broadly speaking, don't agree with. The main point for us is that anything that is going to be super damaging to county capability for now and also out into the future, we try and do something about. We haven't managed to do anything on the incinerator. It may well be that it needs people outside to mount a serious campaign through the courts on that. I'll continue to pursue questions of evidence. I'm confident that if the evidence trail existed to demonstrate that we had followed due process, that would have been provided by officers by now, because I've asked often enough. They're not belligerent, they're not deliberately obstructive, so if it existed, I feel sure they would have provided it, and they haven't. So something is getting in the way of being able to evidence that we have followed the process. It's clearly not out there in the documents in the public domain. Maybe it does exist. Nobody's given me any arguments for commercial confidentiality reasons for not sharing it, but even as under those grounds, as a councillor, I should be allowed to see it, even though I may be caveated in terms of what I can share outside. So there are still serious questions to ask about the long-term impact of that as a decision which will affect the county for a whole generation. But in terms of the bridge for us over the next 12 months, it's stopped being too damaging to young people, to families, exporting our intellectual capital, and to arts and culture. Arts and culture, clearly in our minds, encompasses the libraries also. The libraries was a separate part of the budget. We had made challenges to the way that they are proposing to make cuts across the libraries generally in Herefordshire. We are told that the libraries are not up for cutting in terms of being closed, but they are up for significant cuts. I think that's clearly evidenced in Ledbury, where we're being asked to take £75,000 out of the operating costs of 120 of two separate facilities. Of course, there are going to be economies of scale to do with bringing the two together in the Master's House, but taking a 60% cut on operation is clearly indicative of an intent to reduce service. And I think the market towns, all of the market towns, deserve proper functioning libraries with access to professional support. All the market towns have got high schools in them, and those young people and people in the town more generally need access to the kind of professional support that can only come from a properly staffed library.